Today we are looking at the lifeline and the old goodbyes of Amiga. How it started and how it went. Here we go. The first Amiga computer to the last Amiga CD32. And we'll go from there. Here we go. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. You're walking down the stairs. The first thing you see is a shock on your face when you see the first ever computer you ever laid your eyes on. The beauty, the magic, what can come from this computer. Who knows what secrets it lies ahead of us. You open the box and next you play the games. You focus and have fun on these Amigas. You program them and you do a lot more. Here's the history and here's the first advert for today's show.
Experience the mind unbounded. Amiga.
Yes, the Amiga. The good old days when things were better, as they say. So, what do you remember? Well, I remember the advert for starters. Do you? So, are we gonna now look at the factory where it was all made? Yes, we damn are. Let's look where the Amiga was made and go from there.
Are we on? Okay, welcome to your guided tour of Commodore Business Machines. For those of you who've never been here, this is your chance to get a guided tour of the facilities and all the important people who have to do with the development, the production, and the support of the Commodore Amiga computer. Does that sound professional or what?
That sounds great.
This is the lobby. This is where our guests, when they come to visit Commodore employees, are first greeted. And this wonderful woman here is Dottie. She's our receptionist. She greets all the employees and also helps answer phone calls when we get overburdened. Say a few words to the folks at home, Dottie. I'll just say hi, that'll do.
Hi.
There we go. Okay. Hi, welcome inside the production facilities at 1200 Wilson Drive, Commodore Business Machines. We're now going to take you on a guided tour of a few of our assembly lines and show some of our products in production and also show you how these things are assembled and tested by our fine quality assurance department. Okay, now we're inside of our production facilities here, and what we're going to show you behind us here, people people have the already assembled Amiga 500. They're putting them in the boxes, getting all the labels mounted on them. Over in the next step, they're putting in the manuals, they're doing the final static protection on them, and they're doing the final sealing of them in the boxes the way they're shipped, stacking on the skid, preparing them for shipment. Okay. And can we stop you? Yeah, we're just stopping the woman on the street here to find out what she thinks about. Oh no, seriously, folks. This is Gail Wellington. And your title, Gail?
Chief in charge of miscellaneous and assorted.
Mrs. Big Guy. We're going to move into Gail's office now and do an in-depth interview. As you can see, so she's very busy, as usual, so we're going to have to stop back to conclude this interview with Gail later. Right now, we're going to move on to other members of the CATS team. You don't foot in the door. I learned that when I sold car insurance.
Is it what you're doing and all that good stuff?
It's just for the developers conference. Huh? Do it. Oh, well. What we're doing here is we're rolling a film, and we're taking the developers who've never been to Commodore Business Machines, and we're taking them on a guided tour of our facilities, and also a guided tour of all the important key personnel that have very important roles in the future, the support and the development of the Commodore Amiga computer. You, as one of those key individuals, have been selected to win glorious prizes and be on our videotape. That's right. This is the famous Lauren Brown. I'm sure many of you people out there maybe have never seen her before, but you've probably used her name in a number of sentences in different forms. And now's your chance to meet her and for her to tell you what she thinks of you.
Hi. Bye. Really?
And that's it, Lauren? That's all you really want to say to these developers?
I'll see you.
Oh, well. You guys may want to take a look here at Lauren's office. This is the usual state of it because she's a very busy gal, because you guys don't cut her a break. Okay, we got an answering machine. Use the darn thing. Thanks for the interview, Lauren. We'll be getting back to you then. This is Patsy. She's our department secretary. She takes care of filling all those orders and all the not trivial, excuse me. Shouldn't say this stuff. She takes care of all the other details that you guys put on her. She takes care of all our dirty work. We need somebody to do that for us.
Of course.
She's a very important part. And when you people call and you can't get through to Lauren, or you call the CATS team and you need an order trace down, you need a developer's number, you will need an RA number, all that stuff that you guys need, this is the gal to keep in mind next time you're calling every day of the week wanting to know where that number is. This is the poor gal that we have to pest to find out for that information. I think we're on phone. Are we rolling right now? Okay, I guess we're rolling. So your name is Rich McIntyre.
Rich McIntyre.
That's okay. A lot of people freeze on film for their first time. It's fine. I'll help you out. I'll roll you through this. Okay. And your title here?
Rich McIntyre.
No. That's your name, Rich. We're looking for your title this time.
My title?
Yeah.
Vice President of Sales and Marketing.
Good title. Good title. I like that one.
Yeah.
And this film that we're shooting now is for our Amiga developers. So if you have
Gentlemen,
anything
keep working.
That's right.
Could you all make it compatible, please, so I could use one with the other?
Good word. Any other thing you'd like to say to these developers before we shuffle off to our next victim or our next interviewee in our...
No, I think that about covers it. More software that works together would definitely be a plus.
All right. Thank you for your time, Rich.
Only Amiga makes it possible.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to enter the office of John Campbell. John Campbell is the manager here, and he's in charge of software or something or the other. Come on into his office, and we'll find out exactly what John's duties are. Hi, John. Good morning.
How you doing?
What is your title here, John?
I try to keep track of you.
All right.
That's more than any man can handle.
That's probably more than anybody should have to do, including my wife. John, this tape is for our developers at the DevCon conference where you've already been, they've already got to meet you because this tape's going to be shown after it's all over to the poor individuals who are left. And you have anything you'd like to say to them as to what your duties are, how you interact to them, where you become a key individual when they have a product that's ready for marketing or attempting to market a product?
My role in Commodore is really very simple, just to make sure that third parties can get their product into the marketplace without any difficulty. And of course that's easier said than done.
Very good, John. Sounds like a job that has a lot of challenge, a lot of depth, and keeps you out of trouble for most of the day.
And a lot of paperwork.
Yes, there's a lot of paperwork you'll notice on John's desk. What is this? Dear John, pick up a loaf of bread. Oh, okay, John, thank you for your time. We know you're very busy. We don't want to keep you up. Or, tie you up. That's what we meant. Yeah, not keep you up. We know you're not
Tie
going
me
to
up.
sleep. And,
I think you're in the wrong movie.
We got the cable here. We can tie you right up in this chair. Okay, we're coming into the office here of
Nancy Raines.
Right, and Nancy's doing for us, she's updating our ROM kernel manual so that all you developers can get the latest, hottest information on 1.3 is going to be correct. Right, Nancy?
I hope so.
That's right. And do you have anything you'd like to tell the developers as to information that you'd like to hear
That's
from
right.
or other things on the future implementation of these newly revised and fantastic manuals?
Well, Carolyn Schupner has put a request on BICS for people who might be interested in providing sample programs. Also, at this stage, we could really use advice and input on how they'd like the manuals arranged. We'll be turning in the first manual at the time of the developers conference, but there will be another 3 manuals, the second ROM kernel, the hardware, and the intuition manuals that will follow.
Okay, very good. And rumor has it, my cameraman Bill Kester here tells me that you have an interesting something that you can do that you'd like to demonstrate for us on film. Is that true?
Well, unfortunately, the sun is down, so I will be unable to demonstrate that.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that. Thank you for your time. Okay. Inside the office here, the famous Dan Baker, one of the software engineers here in the CATS team. Say a few words, Dan, for the software developers.
Hi, Bill. How's it going?
Great, Dan.
Good conversation, guys.
Hope to see everybody in Washington, D.C. How's that?
I'd like to tell these people how you directly interface and interrelate with the developers when they call for technical support and what some of the other important duties are here at Commodore?
I prefer not to, if that's okay with you, Dan.
Hey, that's fine with us. We're just running around wasting film. No, thanks for your time, Dan. We know you're busy. The phones are ringing. I hear them now, and I can see that you're busily keeping up with Usenet and
You
supporting
got
the people. But, oh, I lied. That's not Usenet. That's actually BICS. Dan's online on BICS, offering more developer support. Thanks for your time, Dan. We don't want to interrupt you and hold you up anymore.
Good night,
Okay,
guys.
now we're outside of the office of Carolyn Schepner, one of the senior CATS members team. Senior CATS staff member, whatever, you know, something like that. Come on in here. This is Carolyn. Carolyn, say a word to all the developers. Okay, that was pretty good. Now, would you like to explain to these people like what your duties are and how you interface and interrelate with the developers and your role here as a software engineer and member of the CATS support team?
No.
Okay, that's easy enough. But is there anything you'd like to say in closing to these people?
I'll say something.
Like,
Say something.
like, don't keep calling me and testing me. Let me alone. I got work to do. Or I really like when you call. Or like, what's your favorite thing that developers do, dear?
Favorite thing?
That's a tough one.
I like when they call with simple questions.
Yeah. See that, guys? Keep it simple. And what's the thing that they do that most aggravates you? Or can't you say that on phone?
When they whine.
When they, oh, I love when they want. I can't get this to work. Can I follow the example? That kind of whining. Probably about it,
Not
Airbook.
too well.
Okay, well, we know you're busy, Carolyn. She's busy writing code here and important documentation to keep you guys out of trouble.
Yeah,
Thanks.
if I work 60 or 70 hours a week, they let me write code in my spare time.
Well, not a bad deal. What do you think, guys? Okay, Carolyn, thanks for your time, and we're going to get out of your office and let you do some work.
Okay, and if you need some stupid pet tricks later, you can use Dino.
Stupid pet tricks. Good idea. We'll get back to that later. Okay. In the office of Becky Cotton. Becky Cotton is the advertising coordinator. Correct me if I get this wrong.
You're wrong.
For
Advertising sales representative, thank you.
Oh, excuse me. Advertising sales representative.
For the new magazine.
For which
Amiga
magazine is that?
Solutions. Amiga Solutions.
Amiga Solutions. Do you have your subscription? If not, get them now. They're going fast. And you're also what title for Commodore magazine?
Advertising coordinator.
Ah, so I was right. She's just bull buffaloing us. That's it, yeah. She's bull buffaloing us. That's what we're doing. So, Becky, do you have anything you'd like to say to developers in relationship to how they should contact you if they want to run advertising space in our magazine or anything?
Definitely. Should I get these?
No, I have to hold the microphone.
Okay.
The cable comes off.
Yeah,
You may hold the cigar.
Okay. Amiga Solutions is the first hands-on publication to be produced by Commodore that's specifically for the Amiga. It's all high-end business, well, not high-end, it's all business applications for the professional Amiga users in terms of video, sound, graphics, you name it. So if you'd like to get more information about advertising in this wonderful publication, contact me at area code 215-431-9259.
Could you repeat that number again, Becky?
Area code 215-431-9259.
That number again, 215-431-9259. Thanks for your time, Becky.
No problem. Thank
Okay,
you.
this gentleman here is Jim Dickman. Jim Dickman, what's your title here?
Sales support.
Sales support of what?
of PC 64128 and Amiga for the military.
Oh, very good. You have that? Amiga for the military.
Our largest account.
Yes. This tape here is for our Amiga developers. Do you have any information you'd like to relay to the Amiga developers as how they could interface with you or get involved with Amigas and the military, or why they shouldn't buy an ugly tie like this? Anything like that you'd like to relay to them?
No, but what I'd like to say is if you have any kind of problem, you got to call Dan here because he's the man with the knowledge. His home phone number is, what's your home phone number again? Saturday night? Saturday night. He's a married guy, he doesn't care.
Yeah, we're not doing anything anyway. So, okay, Jim, we thank you for your time because we know that you're busy drawing little pointers there on that screen.
Yeah, I wish I had an Amiga to do this.
It would make it much more easier. But
Much easier,
with a
yes.
tie like that, what do you expect?
Hey.
Okay, thanks for your time, Jim.
Batteries included.
Really? What was the price on that?
$9.99. That's $9.99. Call 1-800.
1-800-STUPID-TIE. That number again, 1-800-STUPID-TIE.
Yes. Now this is
Yeah,
the tie.
to find you doesn't work.
Now this is a tie for those people who don't know what a tie is. Okay. Something goes around the neck, makes it look professional.
Are you wasting our film there?
Sorry.
Okay, thanks. Okay, right now we're outside of the office of Mike Rivers. Mike Rivers is the technical editor, assistant technical editor, I'm sorry, for Commodore Magazine. Come in and check out the colorful decor of this office. You'll notice here we've got trees. Over here we've got flying cars above the mountains. Behind me here we have this scenic river scene, this casual's going.
Okay, all right. That's enough. Somebody call security.
This is Dave Berezowski. Dave Berezowski is our resident printer driver expert. This tape, Dave, is for our developers at the DevCon conference.
Oh, great.
Would you like to say something to these guys about writing printer drivers or anything important you'd like to relay to them?
Well, if I tell them about writing printer drivers now, they won't want to come to the DevCon conference.
They're not going to see this tape till after they've seen you.
Okay, well, in that case, I hope you got everything out of my conference that you wanted to. Hopefully I told you everything there is to know about writing drivers. I don't know.
But if they have any questions or problems, can they call you, or what's the best way to leave you mail, or where should they leave you mail? How should they contact you if they have
Okay, you
problems?
can contact me on Usenet at DaveB@CBMVax. I'm also on Bix. I think I'm under D. Berezowski, which is DBEREZOWSKI. I sign on both places every day. And yeah, if you have any questions about writing drivers, or more importantly, if you're an application programmer and you want to know how to best use the printer device, especially the dump rport command, please give me a call. I want you guys to get the most out of it. There's a lot of features in there, and we really need to pass that information on to you guys so that the user gets the most out of your programs.
Okay, Dave, so thank you for your time, and we won't hold you up anymore.
Great.
Okay. Eric Cotton. Eric Cotton's a member of the Commodore Amiga Software Development Division. Would you like to say anything to the developers, Eric, about things that they should be aware of, or other important things to keep an eye on with 1.3?
Not particularly.
Okay, that was well put, I have to admit. Is there any key points, like maybe the 100 most common programming mistakes that you'd like to relay to these guys, or...
Read Dan Schoen's article. Great article in Amiga.
And one thing though that I'd like to mention, I don't know if our cameraman can zoom in on this or not, but I'd like you to see this little figure right over here. If you guys could just zoom in on that for a second. Can you get that, cameraman? Okay, that's Gilligan. That's all I wanted to point out. And we thank you for your time.
Well, for
here.
pointing out figures, there's one figure I'd like to point out.
Yeah, if you can get a close-up of that figure there, it's really not that bad either. Okay, Rick, thanks for your time. We're interviewing two people here who are important members of our documentation staff. One person who's an important member of our documentation staff. Isabel. Isabel, you tell folks at the Developers Conference what you do here at Commodore? Camera's that way, dear.
Are you serious?
Sure, we're rolling.
Is this going to be edited? I write the manuals. I track the manuals for production. I deal with all the Germany engineers around this place. Did I say that? Yeah.
No, they're probably watching by now, but that's okay. So, if the developers have a question about a manual, or a problem, or a correction, or an addition, should they contact you, or how should they go about contacting Commodore to make sure that future revisions of the manual contain these corrections?
They should put it on the net. How's that?
Which net is this?
Oh, good one. ComSys Amiga, yes.
Okay, and should they mark it to your attention, or can they mail you your
Yeah,
Commodore
they
Amiga?
they could email me.
And your mail address at CBM Vax is?
Izzy. I-Z-Z-Y.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to swing the camera over here. Did you move it already? It's a tough move for that camera, but I'm telling you.
Yes, this is tough.
Yes. The camera's that way, Barb. This is Barb Feldman. Barb, would you like to tell folks the number your title? 'Cause I can't remember it.
Sure, I sometimes have a hard time remembering it too. It's Manager of Worldwide Product Support.
Ooh, I like it. And would you like to tell the developers actually what your duties are here at Commodore, or more specifically how they relate to the Commodore Amiga and the developer community?
Okay, well, I have two main tasks. One is to be the liaison between all the sales and marketing groups worldwide and engineering and manufacturing. And the second main job is to track products and to alert people when things are slipping and what needs to get done next and so on.
So basically you would not have a direct interface or relationship with the developers then, but you're part of the important people behind the scenes that make the developers things happen.
I hope so.
All right. We thank both of you for your time. We realize Wellington here, who we've already got her title, and earlier we had to postpone our interview because she was busily on the phone helping developers with support. Yeah, what we'd like to know is a couple of your duties and the way they relate to the developer community.
Well, I'm responsible for Commodore's frequent flyer program. No, you always talk to the interviewer, not
excuse me.
camera.
Okay.
You asked the question.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I did.
I'm responsible for Commodore's frequent flyer program. It's my job to see how many miles it's possible for a Commodore employee to log in any 1 year.
Oh, very good. And how many miles have you logged so far this year?
I'm afraid to count, but I've made 3 trips to Europe, 1 to the West Coast, 1 to Canada, and several trips to New York City to visit our fearless leader.
Ah, and our fearless leader is?
Uncle Irving Gould.
That's the gentleman, yes. What are like some of the common annoyances, bugs, problems, questions that developers relay to you that you could give them some kind of general advice so that they can handle matters maybe a little bit more on their own before they have to come to you?
Well, the most frequent question that I get is, why doesn't anybody ever call me back? And the best advice I can give about that is, well, don't call.
That sounds good. We told them earlier to call Andy Finkel here in the hallway, and Andy's in charge of the Commodore Amiga software development team here at Commodore. I'd like to say a couple words to the software developers, Andy, about things they should be aware of or anything in general.
No.
Okay. Thanks, Andy.
Oh, you're welcome.
This gentleman
This
right
is a
here.
pen.
Excuse me. You're
That's
on
a pen,
film, sir.
That's a pen. Come on, get out of here.
Ah, come on.
I already heard about you guys.
Oh,
I
wow.
was ready for
Our
you at
rumor?
lunch. I heard you were coming around and bothering people while they were eating lunch. I was going to take a taco and smash it in my mouth and have it coming down like that, but
Darn,
it just
we
didn't
missed
work. I definitely like the like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So,
Pretty cool.
can we interrupt you for a minute or two there for an interview? Are you too important?
I'm too important. This lunch is
But are you too busy? That's the key question.
I never do anything. So
Okay, there we go. Well, who we'd like to introduce here? This, I guess I'm not on the film.
My buddy.
We look pretty good together. We should hang around together more often. This is Hedley Davis. Hedley is part of our engineering team over here at Commodore. And Hedley, would you like to explain to the developers here some of your important roles with developing products for the Amiga?
I have very few important roles with developing products for the Amiga. C64 forever.
There you go. So, is there anything else except for C64 forever you'd like to relay to these?
A2024, which is a high-resolution monochrome monitor that we use.
The famous Hedley high-res system.
What is this for, really?
This is for the developers conference.
I see.
It's going to be shown there.
All right.
You're going to be there, so you'll get to see it.
Aren't you? I can be embarrassed there then. Sounds good.
In person, right after you see this.
Okay. Well, is there anything else I can do for you? You said trying to beat a hasty retreat?
That's pretty much it. Well, thank you for your time. Okay. Inside of the Commodore engineering area, where we just finished interviewing a few of our engineers, this area is one of the most highest secure areas inside of Commodore. As you'll notice above me, if you get a shot of this is actually cameras that are guarding this door and watching who's entering and who's exiting, what you're entering and exiting with. These doors in front of me are locked at all times. This special thing here requires a security badge, which only certain individuals have access powers to get inside of here. We'll go in right now. Oop, somebody left the door open. Okay. We're in the office here of Paul Higginbottom. And along here with Paul happens to be Pete Baxter. Pete's in charge of, what are you in charge of, Pete?
user group support.
That's right. And Paul, you're in charge of?
Amiga marketing.
That's right. Paul's a very important guy here, especially with you developers in relationship to the Amiga. Would you like to say anything to the developers as far as what kind of relationship you have with them, where you would interface with them, any important dealings you would have with them?
Amiga developers shouldn't just look at Amiga products, they should look at products on other machines as well.
Very good point, Paul. And Pete, do you have any word for the developers on maybe how they could use or how they could make more benefits out of the user groups?
Well, by getting in touch with the user groups, they'll be able to possibly have an instant market for the product. They can call me, get the names of local groups, and if they know of any new groups, definitely call us and let us know about those too.
And the people who are in user groups also often represent a lot of professions, not just hackers operating the machines.
Good point.
Be a useful source of research.
Okay, anything you guys would like to say in closing to the developers?
Have a good time at the shop.
Best of luck.
Okay, thank you guys. Okay, right now we're in the middle of the Commodore customer support area where end users, consumers who have complaints or problems can call and get help. This is that infamous number, 436-4200, that everybody says no one is ever there or answers the phone. We're here to prove there actually are people here. I don't know if they're answering the phone, but we'll find out. Over this way, we have one of the customer support representatives. His name is Greg. Greg, would you like to say anything to the developers about that you guys are really here and answering the phones?
We're definitely really here. We really appreciate though if the developers call these guys, because we can't handle your phone calls.
Good point, Greg. Yes, if you are a developer and you're a certified or commercial developer with Commodore, you were given specific information where to call to get your support or where not to call to get your support. Please follow those guidelines. Now we'd like to move along here and just show a few of the people in this area that are actually hard at work. Here we have another one of our customer support representatives, Creepy Carbus. And you can see that he's busily working here. He's filling out forms, taking care of records of the calls of the day and stuff. So as you can see, there actually are people here. We're now going to do a quick cut and then move over to the other side where we'll actually show representatives live on the phone. Okay. The area where the customer support representatives are actually taking the phone, are supposed to be taking the phone call. For some reason, all the representatives, oh, here comes one of those representatives now. But usually, this whole area is just busily bustling with people. On the average, you'll find 30 to 50 people in here during the day answering phone calls. Non-stop. These people are here from 6 in the morning till 8 at night. Okay, so you're maybe not here quite as many hours as I mentioned, but you're here pretty many hours. And here you can see, if you can get a close-up of this phone off the hook here, you'll notice that our customer support representatives are here. So when you call and nobody answers these phones, just remember, you've seen these people, they do exist, they're here. One of our temporary helpers here. Before I fall over all this shit.
It has a barricade in her office.
Yeah, right.
Keep this thing out.
That we need help here because we're continually swamped with orders, new development information and stuff for the Commodore developers. We're always trying to support you. Would you like to say anything to the developers about all the important information that you're doing here?
Well, I know it's broadening the horizons in my life.
There you go. And we certainly hope that it's broadening your horizons as developers as well. Right now we're in the hallway, heading back towards engineering here, and this is just a scene of some of the activity and frustration that goes on here at Commodore. We have a few of the people accessing some of our exciting vending machines here in the hallway of Commodore. You can see that they're getting exciting things like sodas, cigarettes, candy, chips. But Commodore is not a boring place. The hallway here with Jeff Porter and Joe Morlino. Jeff's Mr. Big Guy in charge of engineering. And Joe, what's your title?
Little guy in charge of engineering.
This is Big Guy. He's Big Guy in charge of support for the Northeast area.
Dealer training.
Dealer training, that's
The
right.
Mid-Atlantic Division? That's right.
Yes.
And the Greater Northeast.
How do you interrelate or interface with the developers, or what do you have to do with the developer community, Joe?
What do I have to do with the developer?
Do you have any information that you want to pass along to our developers?
I do a lot of I demonstrate a number of their products at shows, as well as train some of our fine dealers with their new packages.
So if a developer had a product that he'd like you to demonstrate at a show or get you to teach it to some of our dealers, how would he go about contacting you to make sure that you were aware of this product and get a copy of the product to you?
He can call me here at Commodore, and my extension's 9311.
Okay, now we're going to interview Jeff. And
Morning.
Jeff's a very important guy here. Jeff has a lot to do with the development of Commodore products and the future development of upcoming products. Can you give us any insight or give the developers any kind of insight, Jeff, as to new exciting products or changes that we have in works for the Amiga?
Oh, well, we have mighty fine things in store for 88. You know, some of those things have been previewed at the last Comdex show. The 2024 high-res Monaco monitor, the
Headley high-res?
The quote-unquote Headley high-res, yes. I don't know whether we'll be able to strip that moniker off the product before it comes out, but yeah, that's what we call it internally. The 68020 card, which is called an A2620, gives you lots of performance and all this other kind of stuff. Of course, we have a whole sundry of video products like a A2300 Genlock, and hopefully in the future an A2350 PVA, which should keep my phone from ringing off the hook about people that want to do things with the Amiga and just can't. Let me see, what are some of the other neat things that we've got? Of course, the complete complement of PC compatible products, but you guys don't care about that. That's about it, I guess.
Okay, well, do you actually have anything to do with the developer community in the line of a direct connection? I mean, do they have any reason to actually contact you? Or
for some reason, if the guys are too cheap to like pay the $25 developer fee, they usually try and call me up.
$50, Jeff, sorry.
Oh, is that $50?
$50.
Okay, well, gee, it seems awfully small to me, but they usually try and call me up. Now, that is a, you know, a trial and error basis.
No thing, right?
Yeah, that's a non-supported thing. You know, I tell them to pay their money and then we answer the questions.
Okay, well, we thank both of you guys for your time. You were great. And if you'd like to say a closing comment to the developers at the conference here?
Just thank you for your support. Keep up the good work.
Okay, inside of the office is Steve Beats. He's the guy who's responsible for our famous fast filing system. Come on in, we'll meet Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
We're filming a little tape here for the developers who by now already know you and they know that you're a prima donna and a definite Amiga guru because they've been through your lectures and they know all about the fast file system and they're overly impressed with it. So what would you like to say to the developers maybe about the fast file system or something that they should be keeping in mind?
God, you ask difficult questions.
Well, how about just any kind of general information that you'd like to relay to the developers of maybe an important tip that you may have picked up along your many years of programming experience? Okay, maybe like the top 100 mistakes that developers make when they program. Maybe you'd just like to say hi to them.
Hi.
Okay. And is there anything in general though you'd like to say to them that like they're doing a good job, or don't call me and bug me, I'll call you, or here's my phone number if you want me to call me, or
phone number is definitely unlisted. It's called here.
Unlisted, yeah. You can't see Steve's phone number here.
Yeah,
he
right.
definitely does not need to be called. He's a busy man. Would you like to give him any insight into any super new stuff that we're going to be coming out with that we can relay
Rumors
to?
about the A5000? I mean,
yeah.
Let's call it here.
It's over there?
No.
Okay, no, you can't see that.
This is really nuts. I mean,
Okay, well,
I can't believe it. I'm going to have subjected myself to like how many days of meetings?
The key is, have you had a good time here today?
Today?
Right now. In this interview, have you not had a great time?
No, actually, I haven't really been. I'm fixing a bug in the fast filing system right now, which of course won't.
Cut that. It was not a bug. No. It was a feature that we're changing. It's not a bug.
Yes, right. A benefit.
Right. It was a benefit that we're changing. That's right.
Right.
Okay, Steve. Well, we can see that you're busy here. You've got. Can you get a close up of this really important program that Steve has running back here? You can see that's an exciting
yes,
demo.
I do. You know, this all development is done on Amiga 2000.
Yes. Can we get a close up of that? This son is running the fabulous Worm demo.
Live.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you notice that Steve does do all native development on an Amiga 2000. Very important point. I'm glad you brought that up, Steve.
Right.
Okay, well, we thank you for your time. We won't hold you up. We know that you've got plenty of work to do
Who's
over
going
here.
to interview him?
Oh, we've got a surprise waiting for him. Thanks for your time, Steve.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay. Assurance area of Commodore Amiga. This is the rear area. Talk louder? Okay. Right now we're in a quality assurance area here of Commodore. These guys are located close to the CAT staff so that they can make sure that all the products that you guys receive have been tested thoroughly, that there are no bugs and problems with it. Right now we're going to enter this office and meet one of those quality assurance people. This guy's name is Jerry. Jerry, maybe you'd like to say a few words to some of the Amiga software developers and tell them some of the torturous tests that you guys put the Commodore equipment through before these guys actually get it.
Who do I have to sleep with to get edited out of this?
Yeah.
Oh no, there's none of that stuff. This is, maybe you'd like to see some scenes around here. You can see that Jerry has some of the equipment here. He has it in various stages of opening so that he can get in and actually see some of the physical hardware, how it works, and really get in there to decipher any kind of bugs and problems. Can you tell us any recent problems or anything that you've come up across here that the Amiga developers would be interested in?
Well, let's see. Probably by the time they see this, it'll be an old bug, so.
Oh, okay. Well, alright, that should take care of you guys. Evidently, as we've noticed here in our QA department, there are no problems with the Amiga. It's perfect. Thanks, Jerry. Okay. Down here in our tour Commodore business machines, and now we're going to take you into the office of our famed cameraman, Bill Kestner. As you can see, this wall here is an array of pictures that Bill has printed out on the famous Textronics color printer that he himself has written the printer driver for. I have you know that since these pictures have gone up on the wall, property value in this neighborhood's going way down. Let's step into Bill's office and actually meet him. Keep in mind, Bill's running the camera, so we couldn't get Bill here. Well, we've got a substitute, and this gentleman here is named Tom. He's going to fill in and portray just like he's Bill. By now, you all know what Bill looks like because the conference is over, but just pretend this is Bill. It's like you're back in kindergarten, just pretend.
I'll really pretend I'm Bill here.
Okay? Get off.
You don't have a hat, do you? I can wear it.
You can borrow my hat if you want.
Hi, I'm Bill. I just recently wrote this printer driver for this Tektronix printer. It does some unbelievable output. Let me give you an example. Look at this baby. Another one ready for the wall. I think it's a fine printer myself.
How's the property value?
Property value going to increase on that one. Well, I don't know what else I can tell you. I wish I was behind the camera and Bill was actually here for you, but since I can't possibly be.
Okay, well we thank you for filling in for Bill.
My pleasure.
And we'd like to say to all you guys, we're going to make one more quick stop, and then we're going to do our final goodbye. Okay? Excuse me, sir. This is the second to last stop here on our tour. This gentleman right here is Mike Culligan. He's in charge of our QA division up here. What's your title, Mike?
Supervisor of Software Quality Assurance.
That's right. And Mike's in charge. I know you've all remembered Jerry that we met earlier who wanted to sleep with somebody. Okay, Mike's in charge. You didn't hear that, but you'll get that later.
Did you say that?
Mike's in charge of him and a few other gentlemen who at the present time aren't around. And
with Dan. You have to sleep with Dan to get out of this.
Mike's going to mention to a couple of you developers some of the important things that the QA department checks and maintains when they test your software for compatibility with our hardware.
What was the question?
Thanks, Mike. Great job. Okay, guys, so remember, if you have any questions as far as compatibility problems, he's the guy to talk to. Okay? Front of my office, and as you can tell here by, excuse me, I'm on my cord. Can you get a close-up of this? That's me. I'm Dan. You see, this is the famous Boeing jacket. These jackets can be ordered. If you have any questions, see either me or Dale Luck after this tape is finished for order forms for this jacket. I'd like to take you now into my office and show you some of my humble abode. This is it. This is the hideout of an average CATS staff member. You've seen Bill's office, you've seen Carolyn's office, you've seen Dan's. Well, now you see the other Dan's office. As you can see, we too do all our development work on Amigas. Over here, I'd like to show you an Amiga 1000 that you'll notice is open. The reason that Amiga 1000 is open is so that we can get in there and do any kind of actual adjustments, modifications, or tests that have to be done at the hardware level. Over here is my 2000 that I use for development work. And over here is another A1000 that we're testing. If you notice, we use several different brands of third-party monitors to test for compatibility. And as far as Bridgeport compatibility, which this machine happens to have one of, over here we have one of our newly introduced PC-10-3s, which we also test for compatibility to make sure that everything works well together.
Don't you guys ever do any work?
That's scale. Okay, right now we're ready to leave. We're going to give you our final goodbye, but before we leave, I'd like to show you this flag that we have flying here. This is to show that Commodore stands for anti-piracy. That's right, we are against it. As you will have noticed if you attended our conference on software development, marketing, and piracy. Okay. Okay, that's been the Grand Tour Commodore Amiga here today. I hope you guys have had a good time, enjoyed yourself, had a couple laughs. You met most of the CAT staff, you met most of the important people here at Commodore that are behind the scenes, and a lot of you don't get to meet, that have to do important jobs with the development, production, and making sure that you get the Amiga. Right now I'd like to introduce into the picture here our real cameraman. This is Bill Kester. He's the guy who's really been doing the camera work all day while I've been walking around having fun. And we hope that
that's all you get to see of me.
And now you see a part of a Amiga in the US, but the truth lies ahead of us with the next part of the Amiga. Here we go.
My name is Trevor, and I am an Amiga-holic.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is David, and I was an Amiga dispenser.
You fed my habits.
I did. I absolutely did. I'm the guilty one. Yeah. But can I tell you, I am extremely proud of it. Of all the things I've done in my life, and I've had an extremely varied and colourful life, my time with Commodore and selling the Amiga was the best. It's absolutely been phenomenal, and I can't change that, and I would never want to change it.
Well, we're very happy for what you've done to the Amiga and to the Amiga community and everything else, because that's what made actually our youth, and it shaped our life. From that point that we were sitting here and talking to you, I would never believe that.
We must not lose sight of the reality, and that is that when Commodore launched initially the VIC-20 and then very quickly afterwards the Commodore 64, it was at a time when the world needed that kind of technology. And we supplied at an affordable price at that moment in time, something that people were able to suddenly buy into, and it did change their lives.
Although not in Poland.
Yeah, we're still stuck in communism. And as I told you, why the Amiga was still surviving in the 90s in Poland was that we couldn't afford these technologies back in time.
I have to say though, I was still using my Amiga 4000 Tower, which I built myself back in 2000, because it was my day-to-day computer.
Yeah, yeah, it could be, yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I don't think we could, even though we're talking about the Amiga, and that's why we're here today, and there are celebrations all around the world still going on, which is really quite considerable when you think about it. It's immense. It all stemmed from the fact that Commodore in the early days was part of an organization that seeded home computing into the world, and they produce products at affordable prices.
You wouldn't know that today, would you? By the way, the way history rewrites itself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people forget these days that even about Commodore. A lot of people, young people, don't even know what Commodore is.
Yeah, the problem with the history of computers, what I see from my point of view, is that there is only one official version of computer history, and there is no Commodore.
History is always written by the victors. Remember that.
Apple and Microsoft.
Yeah.
And you always
which is not
Bill
true.
Gates and Steve Jobs
which is not
in
true.
The official version of history. Nobody reminds of Commodore.
Here we are in 2017. Everybody talks about PCs, but they talk about PCs as a generic product. There isn't one outstanding PC. They're all the same. Their technology is exactly the same, and it is a moment in time. Whereas when the Amiga was launched, it was so far ahead of its time, it enabled people to do things that they never dreamt were even possible. Multitasking, of course. And it was the people, like the early adopters of Amiga, who changed the face of history and computing forever, because they took it on board, and then they developed their own personal assets and made the Amiga something which it was never really designed to be, because, luckily it was ahead of its time. But the truth of the matter, it's the people who made it. Absolutely is the people who made it.
Yeah, the people, the original Amiga team.
And of course in Poland, the Amiga was probably 7 or 8 years later, because of the...
At least 5.
At least 5.
Mm-hmm. At least 5. Because behind the Iron Gate, you couldn't just buy an Amiga, right?
Right. So even after the death of Commodore and the movement of the technology to ESCOM, and they failed pretty quickly because of various things, and then Gateway, and nothing really happened there either, the Amiga got a foothold in Poland.
Yeah.
So that's the unique thing about the Amiga.
Yeah,
for me.
but I think you got to remember that the Amiga was a product which was absolutely right for the time. The fact of the matter is that Poland was behind the times. So when it was right, eventually that Poland was right for the time, and that product was perfect for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the sad thing, the really, really sad thing, is that first of all, the thing that ESCOM did is that they fired or let all of the Amiga engineers go. They didn't retain one of them. So that tells me they had no intention to promote the Amiga long term. The worst thing of all was that what Commodore was developing at that moment in time was sensational. And today in 2017, if that product was launched today, it would still be sensational because it was that far ahead of its time, and they let it go.
I know we've talked with Dave Haney about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know a lot
Mm.
things that happened in Commodore before they closed the door.
There is an overriding message that you guys must understand. And I swear to you on my children's lives, I believe this with all my heart. The reason why Commodore ended up doing what it did is that from the very beginning, they never, ever had a business plan of any kind. They stumbled from one crisis to the next.
What happens will be.
Yeah, some of the decisions they made were absolutely obscene. And the people that they employed, they just did not know how to employ the right people, and Mary Ali in particular was the worst culprit. He would employ people who had no.
He restructured Commodore and revitalized it.
Oh, of course he did.
It says that in his CV. It does.
Down the toilet pan real quick. I mean, every person that he recruited himself was a disaster, an absolute disaster. I mean, I'll give you an example. It's all this is in my book anyway, but let me give you an example, right? He recruited a new head of engineering, Bill Sidness. Bill came from IBM, and Bill was responsible for the PC Junior, which was a disaster in itself, right?
Yeah.
So he recruited him. Now, I went and ran Commodore US, Commodore Inc., the consumer division from January of 1992. Right, I'd spent 5-6 days at the CES in Las Vegas, and then I went and took up my position in the office. And first thing I did was to go up and say hello to all the engineers. We had seven Amiga engineers, people like Dave Haney and Ed Hepler and people like that, right? Lovely people. We had 40 PC engineers.
What for?
You tell me. That's exactly my question. And the reason we had them is because Bill Sidness, they were mates of his from IBM, and he gave them all a job. Now, first of all, if you were going to be in the PC market, you certainly wouldn't make your own. When all the Far East was making them as cheap as they can. So what
buy
you
things in Taiwan and assemble them and sell them. That's all.
Well, you wouldn't even assemble them. What you would do is you would license your name
to other company and let them produce.
Absolutely. And then what you do is you say you can produce CBM PCs, right? Because CBM at one time the name was as valuable as IBM.
And just let them run.
Right? And you say you can, and you pay us a royalty, 2% or something like that, right? And that money's coming in all the time. Oh, by the way, if you would like us and our sales team to sell those for you, we'll sell them for you for a commission. But you don't invest in it, you don't pay the manufacturing, you don't design it, they make it, you take orders, you go around all of your stores, every store in America, every store in the UK, every store in Germany, and you take orders for these, and then you send them the orders, and then they send it to you because it's already been bought.
Yeah.
That is not rocket science.
Of course.
And
but why do you need 40 engineers for the PC?
And as we know in any business, even today,
in nature, the PC is much more simple than the Amiga.
But engineers are expensive.
Exactly.
Engineers are very expensive.
What engineering do you need on a PC? When
Yeah,
you
but
just
see,
have things.
so you understand the point I'm trying to make is that people were employed and they made decisions that were completely against the welfare of the company that they're working for. They did it for their own purposes, right? And that's one perfectly good example, right? And I don't care, I'm going to print this and somebody can come at me with anything they want because I know it's true. And if you want to take me to court and sue me, that's up to you. Because I know it's true.
Rocket science.
It's ridiculous. The same thing about manufacturing. You know, we opened up a manufacturing plant in the Philippines. You know? You know about that? We opened up. We had a new guy come in, right? We had a new guy. Mehdi recruited this guy, and he said, close down all these factories wherever we had it, Hong Kong and various places. We're going to manufacture in the Philippines. Now, the first thing, let me tell you, is that we didn't have a small amount of business in the Far East. We had no business. We were not selling Commodore products anywhere in the Far East. So, setting up in the Philippines, when you are manufacturing something which is 5 weeks by boat from your main market, in a market which is so volatile in terms of, that was nonsense to do that. And do you know why he set up in the Philippines? He set up because the company he worked for before set up in the Philippines, and he had a mistress in the Philippines.
That's a good reason. I didn't say that, sorry. That's a very bad reason, David.
Okay. A bit more about your book, because I'm really very interested in
My book, well, I mean, all I'm doing is I'm relating all of these things which I know from my perspective are true. Because first of all...
Does that mean from my perspective they're not?
All I can tell you is this, is that
This is your personal history and knowledge as far as you're aware from your own...
The fact of the matter is that I have a very poor memory, so I make a very bad liar. If I lie and I can't remember what I've said, so I don't lie. It's not in me to lie. So everything I'm recalling, unless I've forgotten something, it's the truth. Everything I'm telling you is true. There may be more to it, but everything I'm telling you is the truth. So I just felt that with Commodore and my passion for that company, nobody's really told the story. All these books that have come out, they're all on the surface. They're all around and about, and it's all theory and all of this. I wanted to tell the truth, and
from the inside.
From the inside.
We need it.
Well, I mean, the fact that I sold so many books when I did the Kickstarter, which absolutely floored me. It says people obviously want it, I mean, but all I can say to you is that I promise you that what you will get is the truth as far as I'm aware. And warts and all. I'll tell you all the bad things as well as the good things,
Good.
Because I think everybody needs to know.
We need the facts.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, because Commodore UK remained a live and prosperous business for 17 months, I think it was, from the day that Commodore International declared their bankruptcy. And that's because we were the strongest business for the whole of the world for Commodore, because everything that we did was built on solid foundation. We got paid for everything that we did, and it was a solid business. If I tell you that at the day that we closed the doors, we had £6 million worth of tax credits. That whoever, and we tried so hard to get ESCOM to take on Commodore UK, because that meant that they could have sold millions and millions and millions worth of product, whatever it was, before they had to pay through the UK, before they had to pay any tax. Now that in itself is valuable thing.
If you had all these tax credits, how do you not make if you must have making a loss?
Yeah, but that's,
I don't.
I know. The reason for that is that
that's why I want to explain it.
All companies work on transfer pricing. So let me give you an example. These aren't necessarily the figures, but a good example, right? Let's say, for example, Commodore UK bought its Amigas from Commodore International for $200. And then we sold them at $400, take away our costs, our warranty, our marketing, and our overheads, and what was left was our profit. But if suddenly we are not paying $200, we're paying $400 to the company, so the head office.
To the head office, yeah.
Head office is getting the $400, and we are losing money on every one that we sell. And that's how they did it. They changed the transfer price. So we had sat there, having sold all these Amigas for a long, long time, and built up all these tax credits. It was a beautiful thing, and ESCOM were too stupid to see it.
Well, ESCOM was overgrown in Europe.
Yeah, they
much overgrown.
They overreached themselves.
Yeah, they bought all those silica shops in the UK. And then the PC market collapsed because of the cheap PCs from Southeast Asia.
Windows 95 at that same time.
Yeah.
So if you hadn't kept up to the Windows 95, you were lost.
Yeah, but remember that Escom had built their business selling PCs.
Yeah.
And they never really wanted the Amiga.
Well, it was just like let's make some money out of that.
I mean, we tried to convince Escom. You have the PC business. The CBM name. CBM was at one time was as powerful a name as IBM. So you have that, and you market all of that. Just give us the Amiga, and we'll do all the rest. And we would have bought it. We would have paid for it. But they didn't want to know because they were too stupid. And then somehow or other Petrol got involved. And then he sort of went off on this. He spent a fortune on marketing, on gimmicks, on key rings and all those sort of things. He had a car with bloody Amiga written all over it and all this kind of stuff.
So have
you have my deepest sympathy.
So is in the shoes.
Yeah, well there you go. So that's where all his money's gone on, No, but what I cannot imagine. And to this day, I do not understand. I swear to you on my children's lives, I do not understand why Commodore would let all the 7. There was only 7 Amiga engineers go, and why they abandoned the technology that was being developed way back. Because that technology was
a lot of the key engineers left for Scala as soon as Commodore went bust, because Scala took a lot of them. I'm trying to think of Carl Satternath was there. Yeah. So a whole bunch.
Peter Turner.
Very early. So before Escom were involved.
Yeah, but I'm telling you right now, had Escom said we want to continue with Amiga, they would have come back in a heartbeat because that was their heart and soul.
Yeah.
They only went because they needed to make money. They needed to pay their children's education and pay their mortgage and all those things. They only left because they had to. They had no choice. But what I'm saying to you is this: is that the technology that Escom didn't even bloody evaluate
and didn't understand.
Well,
they didn't even look at it. They didn't. I mean, when they did their due diligence at the same time that Colin and I and our investors were doing our due diligence, they didn't even look at it.
I know what they did, because they were just buying places, buying shops, buying companies in blind.
They were out of control.
In blind.
But can I tell you this?
Collapsing. Yeah.
Let me tell you this. Not because he's dead, because also the main guy from Escom is dead as well. But Bernard van Tienen was Commodore Netherlands, right? And he was a director of Commodore International, and he joined Escom. And I'm telling you right now, he was as bent as a butcher's hook, right from the beginning.
That means he wasn't a very
he was not
man.
He was not
just in
straight.
case that doesn't translate.
And let me tell you, I've told
bent as a butcher's hook.
Well, it's true, right? And I've told him to his face. So I said that to his face, and he just shrugged and laughed it off because that was who he was, right? But he's the guy who should have, because he joined Escom in a very senior role. He's the guy who should have directed them, but he didn't have a clue. He was ignorant about the opportunities that there were, and he didn't care, because he cheated Commodore every single quarter, recording sales he hadn't made, so he could get his commission,
his bonus.
He did it. Yeah. He did that every quarter without fail, and he bragged about it, right? So how can somebody like that take a business like Escom and direct them in the right way? Because he was bent from the beginning, right? So they missed that butcher's hook.
Thank you.
but the fact of the matter is that why would you go and open up? Why would you buy stores? You're a manufacturer and you want somebody else to do all that work. You know, I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But he's the guy that was sort of walking around like this, and we just bought Rumbelows. They bought all the Rumbelows stores,
Silica shops, yeah,
and so on and so forth. And what if they'd have just bought the CBM name, right, and then put that badged all their machines CBM, because all the distribution in the whole of Europe was already in place. All they had to do was to go to these stores who already sold all Commodore products and say, we've got CBM PCs, will you sell them? Of course they will.
I have to admit, my first ever PC, I'm sorry to say this, was an Escom PC, because they bought Commodore, they bought the Amiga, so I bought an Escom PC.
Sure.
My second PC My second PC was a Gateway PC. It's a good job no one else bought them, otherwise I'd have another PC, but yeah.
But I mean, so I hope you can tell from my passion, I understood, and I was one of the very few people in the whole of the Commodore community, I swear to you, who understood what needed to happen, what should have happened.
Yeah, I believe it.
And I can tell you...
The UK market was essential.
Well, I can remember moving back to the UK from the States, because I actually bought my first Amiga in the US, because I was originally a Commodore PET, 64, UK.
But you know this, the Commodore USA were sales prevention officers.
Sales prevention?
They were.
Yeah.
They were sales prevention officers.
That's true. That's true. Well,
so when you talk about Commodore, I can remember this man from the Amiga Format magazine, because obviously I got my Amiga 2000, then 3000, then 4000, and I really wanted an Amiga 5000. And my kids would say, Dad, what's your next Amiga? It's an Amiga 5000. What's it going to do? It's going to fly, you're right. And of course, I was expecting the Amiga 5000 to come out. And then of course, Commodore went bust, and I was pretty shocked, to be honest.
They instead released the 4000, which was a shit compared to the 4000.
I thought it was a shit originally. Originally, I did think that. I thought, no scuzzy, but I came to realise it was actually quite a good machine.
Yeah, it was quite a good machine.
And it was actually more expandable than the 3000, which is very stylish but cramped.
Mm-hmm. I know we were kind of fighting with Petro for the rights to produce the Amigas.
I did not know at the time that I was going to be fighting with Petro. We believed that we had put together a management buyout program which we had supported with $50 million worth of finance, that it was sufficient, because the one thing we knew was that yes, we could probably buy the assets at a reasonable price, $13-14 million. But what we also knew, and nobody else took this into account, was that we would need to finance manufacturing for a period, and we worked out it was going to take us at least 7 months, because Commodore had left so many people with debts, and they weren't going to...
So many of your suppliers.
Yes, so many suppliers with debts. So there's no way that they were going to give us trading terms.
They want money up front.
They would want money up front. Yeah. So we estimated that we would need $50 million. And the reason we worked on that was because we knew that as we manufactured product, and hopefully we were successful with the product, and we paid our bills, then they would relax and let us continue. So what happened was that when, in the last couple of days, 50% of our investment was from a Chinese manufacturing company, New Star Electronics. They were stolen by the guys from ESCOM. Sorry, I forgot for a second who it was. No, I didn't. And of course, we could have continued. We had enough money to make the purchase and everything, but we knew we didn't have enough money to survive. And there's no point in us borrowing people's money and then going forward and knowing that in 3 months' time we couldn't pay the bills.
And the Chinese company were going to be manufacturing new Amigas for you.
Yeah, the idea was that New Star Electronics had in fact been pirating. They've been pirating
the Amiga.
No.
There was some rumors.
No. They had been pirating the other games machines, and not paying anybody any royalties for a very long time. But the Chinese government had told them they've got to get legitimate. So they had conversations with us, and certainly with me, and the idea was that they would become the manufacturers, which made perfectly good sense because they were low-cost manufacturing, which meant that we could have been competitive. But they were tempted by ESCOM to ditch us, because ESCOM said that we'll give it to you. Don't spend your $25 million. We'll give it to you for $2 or $3 million. Which of course they reneged on later anyway, and they didn't do that.
So New Star didn't do anything?
New Star dropped us, and then were dropped by ESCOM. So they were left in the dark, which was a real tragedy. Yeah. But we had made the decision that if we didn't have the $50 million, it was not a business to go for.
So where does Petro come into that?
Well, we suspected that Petro was involved. And in fact, although we challenged him, he denied everything. Until that was at the Amiga 30 event in Amsterdam. He denied everything. But it just happened that in the Amiga event in Neuss, that Colin Proudfoot, my partner, was with him. I was not there, luckily for Petro, when Petro admitted that he in fact had been the ones who talked New Star out of to drop us, but then they dropped New Star, so New Star lost out big time. But it was Petro who actually did it, and if I'd have been there, I would have floored him.
Yeah.
You know, I really was that angry, and. But there again, you see, there is somebody who has been lying ever since Petro Tichenko wrote his book, which I know was written in German, and I've never read it, but I know
we're going to translate it into Polish.
I know that he lied. He lied and lied and lied, and he said that his responsibility was manufacturing and sales. He was never involved in selling anywhere. He was every general manager or managing director of each subsidiary put in their own forecast, and it was his responsibility to get that product where it should be in time for those forecasts. And he made an awful job of that, a really terrible job of that. But the fact that he's telling everybody that he was in fact, selling it was a complete and utter lie. So whoever he sold that idea to, he was just lying, So I don't have a great deal of time for Mr. Tichenko, I'm afraid I don't.
Yeah, why I was asking that was because, the official version of history talks only in superlatives about Petro. Yeah, because the deal you try to make is always underestimated and somewhere under the table, and it's just mentioned in the Amiga history. That's why I asked you about it, to clarify this and to have this part of history of the Amiga uncovered.
The business plan that Colin Proudfoot and I put together, from which we raised $50 million way back in 1994, shows you how strong the business plan was. We had covered everything, every single thing you can imagine. And I promise you that the book will reveal all, and you'll be thrilled with what was in the book, because it was all true. When suddenly, out of the blue, New Star Electronics pulled out, that was a complete and utter shock to us. And it had been done underhandedly, and Petro was responsible for that. He was the person who actually spoke to them and got them to pull out of our whatever.
And that was the end, actually.
Well, yeah, because the fact of the matter is, you see, we knew that we could have bought all the assets for 15 million or thereabouts, give or take. But we also knew that it was going to take $50 million in total to manufacture and products and get them selling and start to build a business. Because who used to supply all the components was going to supply you on credit terms? They'd just been burnt. They'd just been hit with the huge losses.
Yeah.
There's no way that they were going to supply. So we put into our business plan all the contingencies, so we knew we would have to pay up front. Gradually build up our credit rating, because that's what you do in business. You have to have a credibility. And so we knew $50 million. So when New Star Electronics pulled, it wasn't so much the fact that it was going to be our manufacturer, because to be honest, you can always find manufacturers. That's not really a big issue. The fact is that we needed that 25 million.
They were putting to put cash in.
They were 25 million of the 50 million that we'd raised from other investors. And even though we still had 25 million to play with, we decided we would just lose their money if we went ahead with it. And I don't want that on my conscience. I'm an honest businessman. I always have been all my life. So I didn't want to do that.
If you're an Amiga and a Commodore and Amiga, follower, I think anything that adds to the story is good.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember. I mean, I had 12 plus years with Commodore. I think I'm one of the longest serving employees, which I didn't even know at the time. But I mean, I spent 5 years in the Commodore UK, and I built that business. Yes, I had a good team, and I didn't do all the work myself, but I controlled the team, and we built the business, and that evidence is all there. Then I went to CEL, and I looked after initially 30.
CEL's Commodore
Electronics Limited, which was based in Basel, in a suburb called Aisch, because in Switzerland, because it was Aisch is a zero tax thing, and that's why
That's
Commodore.
strange.
Yeah, well, what a surprise! Every single invoice, including every expense that Mediali incurred, crossed my desk. But I was looking after initially 30.
Why do you say that, by the way?
Because I know what he spent. And I know what he spent it on. You know?
Oh, now it's getting interesting.
And so I looked after initially 36 countries, and somebody thought that I was in charge of Poland, and I wasn't. Whoever's going to interview me later, I'll tell him I never had any involvement. Germany was doing Poland illegally, I have to tell you, but they were. But I had 36 countries initially, and then I signed up India, and I was doing business in India, so I ended up 37 countries. For 2 years I did that, and I built that business. I grew that business. I didn't build it, but I grew it. Then I was in America for a year, and I sorted out America. We were not doing any business in America, in the retail market, and I sorted it out. And then I went back to the UK as MD.
Were you doing business after that, after you sorted it out in the States, or was it just a...
No, well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Yeah. I sorted it out so that we were trading again. None of the retailers were paying their bills. Reason is, it's dead simple. They had been sold, sale or return, signed by Jim Dion, who was the MD, president of Commodore Inc., the sales company, CDTVs. And they were loaded to the gunnels of CDTVs that nobody bought. And so they said, you know, you've signed sale or return, we want to return them. And they wouldn't, Jim Dion wouldn't, because it would expose him. He should never have done that, right? And so they weren't paying the bills. I sorted it out. I took them all back, but in exchange, I made Amiga 500 packs for them, one for each of their store, each different.
A special pack for the
States? Special pack for each one for each store, right? And I got them trading again. And then they were trading nicely, and I went to Mediali and I said, right, my job is done for now. What are you talking about? I said, because they're all loaded to the gunnels with Amiga 500s, and they're all selling, and they're all doing fine. I do not want to sell them anymore. Why? I said, Medi, you and I both know in 2 or 3 months we've got the 1200 coming out, and I don't want to keep selling them 500s.
Because
when the 1200 comes out, they're going to say,
yeah.
Take them back. But I say, if I leave now and leave them to it, if they reorder and I haven't sold it to them, that's their problem. That's business. If they reorder 500s and then we release the 1200, they can't complain because they reordered. I didn't think they would, and in fact they didn't, but I was right. I did not want to keep selling to them. So I said to Medi, send me back to, and in the meantime, the CL business had not done very well since I left it. And so he sent me back to do all that. And then ultimately I went back to the UK as MD, and I would not take on the MD ship on my own, because I am a sales and marketing guy and I'm good at what I do, but I'm not a financial guy. You know, I'm not. So I said to him, and we were in big trouble. Commodore International was in big trouble. And I said, you want me to, I'll run
This is what,
Uh,
1993?
93.
Yeah.
And I said, I will happily do it, but Colin was already there. Colin Proudfoot was already there. I forget what his actual title was. He wasn't a director, but he was. And I said, Colin and I, let us be joint MDs. So between us, I didn't know Colin very well, but I said, between us, we can run this business, and we'll do what we can. And it was a great relationship, which is why Colin is now an investor in Friend, because we are friends. Excuse the pun, but you know, we got on really, really well. So my background and my relationship with Commodore goes right from the very beginning, when I joined them to sell business pets into the retail market. And to show how bad they were, I was recruited to do that job, sell pets into retail, and they never had enough pets for me to sell. That's from the beginning. They just were so badly. They were a business that never had a business plan of any kind. And they stumbled from one crisis to the next by producing things that nobody wanted. They never asked. What is it you need?
It's very true. The public were outraged by the fact that the Amiga company, Commodore, didn't carry on, and the fact they decided to go business instead of what they wanted from the public. And that's what annoyed people a lot. It really did. Anyway, we'll continue with the next video.
And thank you, appreciate that. Members of the community helped us out. The Amiga kit, the Lemon Amiga forums, very helpful in getting this stuff put together and getting software. Thank you. we're going to have Bill talk, and then after that we'll bring up the panel discussion, which was the real hook to get everyone's money. Thank you.
I can only accept that kind of greeting on behalf of the people that I stand here as a proxy for. I mean, all this stuff happened because of so many talented people who dared to dream and really got into this thing and dedicated themselves to making this happen. And, you know, the one regret many of us had was that we didn't succeed in making the Amiga the absolute leader in a major segment of the computer industry, because it deserved to be, obviously. But when I come to something like this and I see what's going on, I realize that we're still the leader in a segment of this industry. It may not be a segment that has had great commercial significance to many of us, but nevertheless it is a very important segment of this industry. And we're still there. We're still there in spite of all the business people who screwed it all up, all the financial people who didn't have the vision and the guts to get behind it. But in spite of all of that, we're still here. And I haven't been involved in this community since 1985. And yet to come here and be privileged to watch an incredible video, by the way. Just, I mean, let's give that video another hand. And to know that that there really still is something that was the result of the original effort that I was privileged to play a relatively small role in. But there were two guys who played a very big role in that original effort, and unfortunately neither of us here to share this moment with us. And so I'm sort of feeling like I'm here as a proxy to two of the most important people in the history of the Amiga computer. One is somebody I don't even know how you ever stand up as a proxy for, and that is the father of the Amiga computer, Jay Minor. But just as the Amiga company would never have happened without the Amiga computer and without Jay Minor, also the Amiga computer never would have happened without the Amiga company. And the father of the Amiga company was Dave Morse. And I only had a few days to prepare for this thing, and I thought I was going to come here and sort of educate you on some of the facts surrounding how the company was formed and how it evolved. And there were a few interesting anecdotes along the way. And I'm not even going to try to do that because, you know, the stuff that's going on with regard to the technology and the computer are way more interesting. I will put the stuff up, you can read it. And I'm just going to try to tell you all a few stories that might give you a flavor for what happened on the business side of this. I mean, you know, there's so much excitement around the technology, and there always was, that those of us who were working behind the scenes to try to make it happen were viewed as the suits. Still, I guess, haven't gotten away from that. Somebody said, you know, we're going to be dressed up. I didn't realize that meant take off the torn jeans and put on the good ones. And believe me, I spend a lot of my days in torn jeans, but you know, I just say you can't come down and be a speaker and those kinds of things, you know. So anyway, let me just give it an effort. Before I do though, there's a special member of the Amiga computer team that many of the original characters here know was a really important member of the team, and we are so privileged to have her here today. So I want to make sure everyone acknowledges Dave Morse as well, and a key person, the mother of the Amiga company, Lorraine Morse. A lot of people remember some of the parties at Dave's house back in the old days, and at Dave and Lorraine's house back in the old days, and it's just great that you could be here to share this with us. So I don't want to spend all day up here. Let me just go through some of this and just pick off a few of the interesting things. I mean, how many people realize that the Amiga company originally existed because it was formed by a company making cardiac pacemakers? Okay, there's a few people here who know that. Very few. Jay Miner, way back in his career, had helped design some chips for a cardiac pacemaker. One of the early ones. It wasn't a very intelligent pacemaker. It was just the kind that if your heart slows down, they stick it in and it keeps you from slowing down too much. And there was a company called Intermedics, and they were the ones who did this. And then somebody said to them, well, you know, you guys are having trouble sourcing these ROM chips for the pacemaker. Why don't you get in the chip business? So they hired this guy Braddock, and they started a company called Zymos, because then they would have a captive chip company. The only problem is that the scale that you need to create for a chip company is much greater than what they needed for the pacemakers, so they found themselves with chip capacity, and the market that they thought was there really was dying. So then they had this idea, well, you know, why don't we start a video game CD-ROM company, you know, to compete with the Ataris of the world in those days. And in the meantime, here's Jay Miner working with his colleague from Atari days, doing what Jay called a personal supercomputer. You know, he was trying to create a supercomputer based on the Motorola 68000 that would be inexpensive, that would provide most of the capabilities of the very expensive workstations, but be a supercomputer for folks like you, who can just go out and buy one and use it to do whatever the heck it is that you want to do, whether it's creative, artistic, design, you name it, technical. And that was his dream. So these guys all went out and they found Dave Morse. Dave Morse was at Tonka. Okay, Tonka was a dominant brand in the toy business, as you know, especially if you have little boys. You know, especially in those days. Maybe some of you grew up with Tonka toys, right? And Dave was getting frustrated. He was running marketing, and he was getting frustrated because he saw the electronic future, and they didn't. And he told me once that he had Nintendo teed up to partner with Tonka to be the US and Canadian representative for Nintendo. That Tonka's position in the distribution channel was so strong that Nintendo thought, wow, these would be the best guys to bring our product into this market. Dave took that proposal to management and just got totally shut down. And so that, I always felt, as Dave told me these stories, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Anyway, one day Dave called me and he said, guess what, I'm here in Silicon Valley, I'm no longer in Minneapolis, and I've been hired to run this new computer company. And he said, don't need money. I didn't have any money at the time, but I was trying to form a venture capital firm. Because I thought, that's a good way to kind of combine making money and having a lot of fun and using some of your technical and management skills. And so I went down to meet him, but there wasn't much for me to do, and I left. But I did warn him. I said, these guys who are backing this company, you're not really all that important to them. So be very careful, because, their support could go away any time. And sure enough, that was prescient. And one day he called me and he said, it happened. These guys have gotten into trouble in their pacemaker business, and they're putting the squeeze on everything that isn't central to the business, and we've been told that we no longer are going to be supported after a certain date. Now, just to put this in a time perspective, this all happened in '83. Dave had been recruited in late '82, and this all happened in '83. And in the meantime, what Amiga had developed was really a simulation, and some of you can correct me if I'm wrong, and just kind of demonstrated on a screen. And this isn't even the breadboard prototype, that came a little bit later. But this was just sort of a simulation that you could put up on a screen to just illustrate what we could do with this computer. And it was beginning to create quite a buzz in the Valley. So I get this call. Dave says, okay, maybe you can help me. And I go down to a meeting. I get to the meeting, and it's a management meeting. And there was this sort of table, and I went in, and the guys, most of them were already assembled. I think Jay was already in his place. And I went to sit down next to Jay, and everybody said, no, you can't sit there. I said, why not? They said, because that's Mitchie's seat. I said, who's Mitchie? They said, you'll see. So we actually close the door. We start the meeting, and then all of a sudden there's a scratching at the door. And somebody gets up and opens the door, and this little tiny black and white dog comes trotting in, plops himself into the chair next to Jay, and promptly goes fast asleep. Okay? And I'm sitting there, thinking, oh, he must be the chairman of the board. I mean, this was a cast of characters. You all know some of them. I mean, you all know Dave Needle, and you know Dale Luck, and a bunch of these other guys, and it was just the most amazing cast of characters you could ever imagine. And Don Rising, we don't want to forget. And so there just were a lot of good things that happened. So the biggest first hurdle that we faced, I didn't have a fund. I didn't have money to fund this thing. But I had done a couple of ventures where I was able to persuade a bunch of people to invest, and so I thought I could do that again with this one. And I also thought I would be finishing my own fund pretty soon. And so I said, Dave, I think we can come up with some money to tide you over here. But our biggest obstacle is that Intermedics owns 100% of Amiga. I mean, Intermedics wasn't just a venture capital backer of Amiga. They started Amiga and hired Dave to run it. And then they made him promises about ownership he would have at some time in the future, and Jay as well. We tried to get them to come to the table, and they kept putting us off. And then finally we get a call. The company was in Texas, but we get a call to come to Lake Charles, Louisiana on New Year's Eve to try to resolve this thing. So Dave and I get on a plane and we fly out to Lake Charles, Louisiana, thinking we're going to meet with the principal of the company. No. We show up at a law firm that represents the company. And you haven't lived until you've had to meet with a room full of good old boy lawyers who all they want to do is shout at him. I mean, they just yelled at me and Dave all afternoon. And we kept looking at each other and saying, what is this? What's going on? Except we knew one thing that they didn't realize we knew. We knew they had to have a deal by the end of the day. Because if they didn't, their accountants were going to require the company to write off the investment. And they did not want to have to write, they had about $5 million in this thing, and they did not want another $5 million loss on top of the problems they were already having. So we just sat there and we kept saying, no, you guys have to understand, we have some investors who may be interested in this, and in fact we're pretty sure they are, but unless we can go to them with a deal that makes sense, in fact we're not even going to take it to them unless it makes sense, and this doesn't make any sense. And they'd start yelling at us again. They'd say, if you think you're going to steal this company out from under us, you know. And I said, you know, I think I'm just going to go home and try to find another company that makes more sense than this one. And sure enough, we sat there into the night, called our wives, said, don't plan on any New Year's Eve celebrations. We're not going to be home until tomorrow. And by the end of the day, we had a deal. And we didn't have to give them any money. We did have to give them a fairly small but appropriate residual equity interest in the company. And they gave us the rights to the whole thing. So that was one really significant milestone. And it was an experience that I'll never forget. Oh, I know. Oh, yes, the famous visit. The famous visit. So there's a lot of buzz that's starting to build in the Valley about Amiga. And frankly, we were successful in getting just about every major venture capital firm to come and take a look at the company. I mean, we exhausted all of the conventional venture capital categories that we could. And in the final analysis, they were all afraid of IBM and Apple. I mean, they saw the Mac coming down. They saw the Peanut. Remember the Peanut? That was the PC Junior, but their code name in IBM was Peanut, and they didn't keep it very secret, so everybody knew about it. And so they were nervous to go. And we had Tom Perkins, if you know the business, you know, that's a top name in the business. We had Ben Rosen. He was a very well-regarded computer analyst who had gone into venture capital. And they all said to us, wow, that thing's amazing. But we just don't know how you're going to be able to make a company out of it going up against all those guys. And so it was getting pretty discouraging. And anyway, one day we get a call. I get a call from Dave. He says, Bill, Steve Jobs is coming over this afternoon. I said, oh? What does he want? He says, I don't know, but he's coming over. You better get down here. So I get in the car, come down, and Steve walks in, and his legend was already pretty well established in the Valley, not quite to the extent that it eventually was. And in those days, he didn't wear the black turtleneck. He wore faded jeans and a white button-down, okay, and sneakers. I remember this. He comes in, sits down across the desk from Dave, plops his feet on his desk immediately. It's okay, you know, didn't your mother tell you? And, you know, then proceeds to have a little conversation, and then, of course, we take him into the demo, and he watches the three-ring circus demo that we had that was very entertaining. And, and two interesting things happened. I mean, one, our eventual take on that was strictly a fishing expedition. I mean, all he wanted to know was he heard a lot of buzz about what was going on, and he wanted to know what it was about and what he might be up against. We were only lucky enough to raise the money. But I made the mistake on the way out of asking him an interesting question. I said, let's say you guys decided you wanted to take on this computer. Where would you fit it in your product line? And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, you know, you've got the Macintosh coming down, and it's an exciting business machine, but it doesn't have nearly the graphics and sound and speed capabilities of this. And he looked at me and said, I don't see anything here that would ever be a threat to the Macintosh. And that's when I knew he wasn't interested. He really wasn't. He wasn't interested. So, you know, that was another interesting one. Then finally, the Atari episode.
Oh boy.
So I did get involved with Dave in, Jay teed up the possibility of a licensing agreement with Atari. We were desperate. We were out of money. Jay had borrowed money personally. Dave had borrowed money personally. And I had invested as much as I was allowed to invest by the fund that I had then raised. And so we didn't know where we were going to turn for our next dollar. And this opportunity to negotiate a licensing agreement came up. And you've been told in the video about how it went. But interestingly, the actual negotiations were done by someone other than Jack Jamil, and Jack Jamil really came into the picture later. Yes, the amount of money was correct. It was $500,000 that they had loaned us, and we were in the process of trying to negotiate an agreement, and as they realized we had less and less choice, we felt that they were pushing the agreement more and more in their favor. The last thing we wanted to do was enable Atari to compete with Amiga. We wanted to give them a segment, a video game player that was just a video game player. And we figured, well, you know, having another machine with the same platform might actually be attractive to software developers and might make some sense. But let's not let them do a computer based on this. And they kept pushing in that direction. Finally, we decided we can't do it. But we needed an answer. We couldn't just tell them we can't do it, because then they would just take possession of everything. And so Commodore came along, and I actually went with Dave to deliver the check. So we called the Atari guys, and we said, we're on our way over. And they thought, you know, we were on our way over to present them with the keys to the kingdom. And instead and they had no idea that this was coming. And instead we walked in and put a $500,000 check on the table, okay? And this guy started stuttering, and he said, well, I'm not going to accept that. I can't accept that. And I said, well, you have to. You know, we brought this check. It's made out to you. You got to take it. No. I said, not going to accept it. I said, well, I guess we better call our lawyer and find out what we're supposed to do under this circumstance. So he said, yeah, well, I got some phone calls to make too. So we split up and we agreed to come back together. We're still at Atari. And our lawyer said, leave the check on the table and walk out. But let me tell you something. I subsequently found somebody who became a friend of mine who was sitting in the room with Jack Jamil when the call came in, and he didn't realize the significance of it. And he got a call from one of his underlings and said, these guys have just delivered me a $500,000 check. What should I do? And Jamil said, when somebody gives you $500,000, you take it. So in the game of war, business is war, I think we won a little battle there. Now, when he realized what had happened, he sued us. By that time, Commodore, he sued Commodore, he sued a lot of the guys in this room, basically. And, you know, this is not a story I would tell out of school back then, but I can tell you right now. Oh, good. Dave and I have spent hours and hours with the lawyers rehearsing our testimony for this trial. We were really ready to go to trial. And I got up that morning and I got dressed in my best suit and my tie, and I was going to be Mr. Sincere. And I'm ready to go down to the court. And I get a call and it says, Commodore settled last night. And I said, well, I guess that's good, but our lawyers were telling us we were going to win this. And of course, you can't always believe that either. And, you know, the check is in the mail kind of deal. I said, you know, they didn't consult us before they settled it, so I hope they're not expecting us to participate in whatever they settled for. Well, you know, the answer was, we don't know yet. This is our lawyers telling us. We don't know yet. I said, okay, well, just to discourage them because they're not going to get anywhere. And sure enough, they came after us. Commodore came after us for what they determined to be our share of the settlement payment they had made to Atari to make the lawsuit go away. Well, we had an important asset that they didn't count on, and that asset was the people from the original Amiga who were still there with Commodore and who were essential to moving that thing ahead. And we didn't even put them up to this. But the next thing I know, those folks went to Commodore and said, if you don't drop this, we're all leaving. Every one of us is going to walk out of here. And that disappeared. The next, I never heard anything more after that. Thank you. Would have had to give up some portion of those proceeds if Commodore had prevailed. So that was pretty significant, and I really appreciate that. Okay, I'm for the moment out of stories, but I just want to say it was such a privilege to have been around in the early years of the birth of this company that has really become such an iconic sort of development in the history of this industry. And also particularly a privilege to have associated with people with the talents of Jay Miner, Dave Morris, and all the cast in this room who have made this thing happen. And thank you all so very much. We really appreciate it.
So I want to ask folks to come up to the stage. If they're still here, they might have gone out partying already. Dave Needle, I see you, Dave. Mr. Luck, would you please join us up here? You can bring them both, it's cool. I think Ron's still here. Ron, you want to come up? And Andy Finkel. Andy, are you here? Yeah, come on, Andy. Come on up. I was looking for RJ. Carl, please. Carl. RJ, is he still? RJ, there's RJ. But we're here, and we're going to have some fun. So, I'm realizing that I really don't need to moderate you guys much. You probably have a lot you want to say. So I'll probably just give some parameters, and we'll just get started. It's about 9:17. I want to go for, let's call it 9:50, and then we'll have some fun at the end. And I want to ask a question, and whoever wants, it's like, what's that game? Like, you have to hit the buzzer first, Jeopardy. One of the things that I've learned has been very interesting is I'm chasing the startup dream, just like you guys did. Like going to small companies, trying to get stock options, and I'm realizing how similar it is now. And I didn't quite equate that it's the same stuff. So my question is, where were you right before you joined Amiga? And why did you take that leap to join a company that the funding looked marginal? You know, you're always trying to place your bets on whether or not the options are going to pay off. So whoever wants to get started, Ron looks like he's ready to go.
Well, I'm the first, and I might be a good follow-up for that Steve Jobs story that was just told, because there have been lots of movies about Steve Jobs recently, and actually some of them are pretty true to form about his character. Dan Kotke also is a friend of Steve Jobs and also a character in, I think, all three of the Steve Jobs movies. And he had a lab bench 2 down from mine. And I was playing with one of my wire-out boards. I forget whether it was for the clock or disk code or something like that. And Dan Kotke was playing with one of the Mac type motherboards and doing something interesting to it. And Steve Jobs comes up and looks at it and goes, "What are you doing?" It's always scary when Steve Jobs asks that. Dan Kotke explained, "I'm putting on a test connector." "What for?" He says, "Well, I just wanted to, experiment with some signals and what they do, maybe add, a color output test device." Steve Jobs looks at him and goes, "The Mac will never be a color machine. We don't need to do a color Mac." That was just a few days before Jay Miner had Dave Morse call me up, so I had a different opinion than Steve did about how to make a great personal computer and game machine.
How do you turn this on? Oh, it is.
Just like that.
Just like that. It just works. Too bad I'm not a hardware guy.
Not a good hardware guy.
I was doing some arcade games with Stan Shepard, who is here. I know you're there somewhere. Hi. And someone in the arcade game business introduced me to this company called Amiga. I don't remember who that was. And said I should go take a look. Stan and I go down for an interview with Dave Morse. And I am one incredibly stupid airhead jerk ass of a guy. And Dave sends us out. But I saw the whiteboard. I saw that architecture on the whiteboard. And it was clear. I had to do that. Called him back the next day. Well, you've heard the story. I think it was part of the film. Called him back the next day, apologized like crazy. He sent me into Tom. What was Tom's last name? Cahill. Sends me into Tom Cahill, the guy who's running the lab. He puts me to work sweeping the floor and putting parts in boxes. So what I was doing was a reasonably successful arcade game thing. We had a couple of hits. We had money. It was good. But I saw the whiteboard. And that was it. It had to be there.
Oh, okay, you guys, I'm sorry. I gotta do something I've been wanting to do for a little while. I'm sorry that I'm interrupting this to do this.
Don't do this.
We've lost 3 of the heroes from the Amiga group in the original heroes. We lost Dave Morse, sadly. We lost Jay Miner. We lost Rob Peck, who was a great documentary, amazing. And we've all grown and we've all developed over the years, and we've all gone through different shit. I just want to do one real thing, just for a moment. Please forgive me. But of all of the guys that have been through a lot of shit that deserve to get a kiss on the head tonight. And I'm sorry to anyone else who might feel like you also might deserve a kiss on the head.
After something like that, I would have patted him on the ass, but as we all know, he hasn't.
And they've done more than one company together, the guys. Not just Amiga.
Now, are we all supposed to kiss him on the head?
It's salty. You.
That's for the bar after.
Okay. So I'll answer your original question. I was at Hewlett Packard, just like Dale. And I had the advantage of working at Hewlett Packard at the time when they said, you can do anything you want, just do it. And I found a guy that was making bitmap displays up at Stanford, and he called his little display system the Sun Workstation. And I went up and visited him. I said, hey, can I borrow one of those and bring it back to Hewlett Packard, because I'd like to duplicate some of the stuff that's happening in Xerox PARC. And put on that, as a result, put on that a whole Windows system with a mouse and all of that, and got that working, and tried to convince Hewlett-Packard to make a system like that, bitmap with bitmap graphics. And they wouldn't do it. I went through all different divisions of HP trying to get them to make that, and they were all, nah, it's just too much hardware for the end result. Except for Dad didn't know about Dale working on his division. It would have been different otherwise. Anyway, so I went off, got married, came back. Bob Peruso had called my house and talked to my wife, and she said, don't talk to this guy, he's really rude. I don't want to work for that company. And anyway, I went down and I saw that same whiteboard, that whiteboard, and I was really into multi-processor stuff, and I thought, whoa, and it was VLSI as opposed to separate components, and that sold me. So it was Jay's dream, same as you, and it was like, yeah, gotta go there. Yeah.
My story is a little different. I was working at Commodore at the time, and my boss, Martin Shabilsky, came to me and said, we're thinking about buying this company. And he gave me a bunch of stuff, and we were a bunch of video game programmers, 8-bit stuff, kind of small, and we loved the Amiga specs and the preliminary operating system docs and say, oh my God. And do you want to buy the company? Yes! And so that's how we, that was my introduction to the Amiga. And after Commodore bought the Amiga, they sent us out to absorb the Amiga culture. And hopefully
you will be assimilated.
We definitely were assimilated, and no one, it was a life-changing experience.
So if I expand on what Carl said, I was also at HP at the time. I'd been working on, and we completed a project called the Orion 2700, $20,000 graphics workstation, 16 colors, 512 by 390 display, but it was non-interlaced. And then I came, and then actually I was looking around, and the recruiter said, why don't you go and take a look at this company, and an interview scheduled for a Friday night. HP has this, at that time, had a reputation of Friday night beer bus. And about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock after the beer bust, I realized I forgot I had an interview at Amiga. So I called up, apologized profusely to Bob Peruso, and he said, no problem, just come in next week. So I came in, and said, you know what, you guys are doing something that will be 1/10 the price of what I had just done at Hewlett-Packard. From 20,000, less than 1/10. It's like, it's going to be $1,000. Same, and it's programmable, it's all this stuff, and I'd actually been working on a programmable version of this workstation. It's like, you know what, this is something I need to be in on. And so that's how I got moved from Hewlett-Packard to Amiga.
So that was the very beginning. Now I want to go till today and ask the question. You might require a little reflection. When you, within the last several years, when were you most that you maybe saw an Amiga, saw something that reminded you of either your time there or the technology, something where you said that's a cool demo, maybe the guy worked on the Amiga, anything that sort of gave you that same feeling, that spirit, or reminded you of the technology more recently in the last few years? Because one of the themes of the show trying to produce is then and now, we have the X-Specs. We actually have a cartridge with the original Atari games that you guys made, like the blue screen shift. We'll get it running tomorrow if we can. And we have the Red Blue glasses, we have the X-Specs, and of course Jerry and Rick with the Cascar is that direct journey. So just wondering if anything comes to mind of when you saw something that reminded you of what the Amiga is or how the Amiga works and the technology of today.
One of the things that just recently I've been at, I work at Roku now, and it's been very successful, but one of the things I've been trying to propose or be a proponent of is, do not allow your own limitations of your own creativity be a limit to other people's creativity of what you might do. So if you are like working on something and you say, oh, no one will ever do that, don't think that. Someone may want to say, you know what, if I do that, I could do this. And do not put boxes around what you might be able to do.
I had constant reminders of Amiga at home. I work mostly at home. In my home office sat serial number 1 for 30 years on the shelf in front of me, and I could see it every day. Hanging on the wall, and I have the drawing here, is a piece of art Jack Hager drew for me when they were testing different printers in the top best quality of everything that there was. And it's just a delightful photo of two people walking down the street looking up in the sky at a flying saucer photo. It was a drawing. And even back then, it was pretty good for the day. And every time I ran into a roadblock or a problem or a silliness on the PC or the computers or the stuff I was working on, the incredibly expensive systems at Oakland Airport where I helped work out some flight issues, I was always reminded, Amiga did it better. We had something that made this easy. We could do the 3D graphics, we could do the tracing, we could do the math, we could produce outputs. We always did it better. And here are these incredibly expensive systems that were junk and were hard to use. And so for me, the technology wasn't just recent, it's been consistent and permanent.
I'm going to answer a slightly different question because what these guys have made me think of it. I've been working on embedded Linux systems the past year or two, and my one big regret about the Amiga is that in the last days we didn't open source the operating system. Because I would so much rather be doing the stuff I'm doing on the Amiga rather than Linux.
So why did that happen?
I wasn't there anymore.
And my own short version of the answer to this question is, when I interviewed at Amiga, I interviewed with Carl, I interviewed with Dale, I interviewed with Ron Nicholson, of all amazing people on this planet. They said yes to me, finally. They said yes to what, modest skills I was bringing to the table, and we found a way to all work together, finally, because of that. And we found a way to create a thing that ultimately was a reflection of the glory, of the magnificence that we brought to the table. And
we were on a mission from God, actually.
We were on a mission from God.
Well, my story's a little less inspiring and more in terms of business. I didn't pay much attention to the Amiga. I was only there for a year. Joe and I did the architecture, and then the software team ran with it, did amazing things, and then sort of, Commodore sort of faded away. And so I thought, all that valuable work I did, it's gone. And then around 2005, I get some calls from some lawyers representing Gateway. And HP had sued them, so Gateway said, oh, we have patents we can countersue. And I said, well, interesting. I happen to be an HP shareholder, so I looked at HP's 10K, and it has risk factors there. The risk factor from the lawsuit based on the value of the Amiga patents was roughly $1 billion. I guess we did something that was valuable.
But your question was, what have we seen like it since then?
That reminded you of it.
Reminded. So for me, the most amazing thing about the Amiga was the creative talent of developers that came afterwards. So, we all were involved in the creation of it, but then, we just started the snowball rolling. And it was all these developers that had all these crazy, amazing ideas that added to that. There was a creative factor to the Amiga that's almost unequaled in history, I think. And these people did just the most. You had a little tiny floppy disk, right? It held almost nothing. You had almost no memory. And yet you could put that in there and watch these crazy Euro demos that would run for 20 minutes, Amazing soundtracks and graphics and all the flashing, all that kind of stuff, and I would just be floored. Just what kind of talent people got behind the Amiga at that time. And I don't think, it was just that point in time, just that point in technology where that kind of thing could happen. You can look at today and you can say there's sort of a similar thing happening with phones where, so many people are creating apps and they're putting them on these phones. Some of these things are amazing. It's actually changing all of our society with, Uber and all these different things that are coming as a result. So that's another creative way. But look at the timing. It's been, 30 years since it's really, it was ahead of its time.
So if you go to YouTube, you can look at the Revisions 2015 playlist for the Amiga demo competition. Just put it up there. It's a lot of fun. So, I don't know, this is another tough question, but what's your favorite computer? Why? Model, operating system. I know there's a lot of them say 1000. There's a few others in there, I know.
I'm not going to answer that question. But I will say, one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that we were not in the way of anybody trying to do anything really great with the Amiga. We tried to set everything up, get all the graphics working, get all the audio working, and just let the developers go to town. Just do what you can with the Amiga, because we wanted to release the performance, the power of the Amiga to just make wonderful things. So we did not want to be in the way. We wanted to make it easy to get access to the hardware, but we wanted to make it easy to do wonderful things with the hardware and do the displays and the audio. That was one of our key things, is make sure we're not in the way and make it easy to get the stuff out.
But you didn't answer the question.
I don't know what you're answer the question.
Go ahead. I'll answer. Okay, so I gave up on all of these computer devices pretty much. I've had them all. After Amiga, I went to work for Apple, and I got the original Macintoshes, and I liked them for a while, and came back to the PC for a while and hated it. It was awful, and I've done Linux for many years, and I do Linux professionally in my day job. But at night, actually, I use a little SoC. It's called an Odroid. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's like the size of there's one. It's like the size of a box of cards, and it works great. It does run Linux. I wish it was maybe something Amiga derived. Maybe someday it will help. That's my answer, though.
I think there's some great pieces of hardware out there. I just don't know that there's great pieces of software that's running it.
Well, things become so complex. I mean, they're just layers and layers and layers. And
yeah, that's the plus part of C.
Well, I do a lot of device driver stuff these days, and I just go through layers and layers and layers of crap, and it just pisses me off.
The software is like a factor of 100 slowing down the PCs, the CPUs that are a factor of 100 faster, so we really haven't gained that much.
Yep. So if we're looking for a little controversy here, let me ask, what do you guys think? So I would say Windows. I would say Windows is the machine that was well informed by the Amiga, that became more powerful, that became better because of the Amiga. And I would say that the Apple product line did not. they did not learn the lessons that we learned from the Amiga. They learned instead bigger, more complex, memory and direction and stuff like that made it what we all hope will be the machine of the future that really does everything right and that really handles everything for us and that really is the perfect machine of the future. And maybe Apple is that way that things will go finally. But I think what Amiga taught us is that, yeah, beautiful and correct and disciplined, that's right. But don't forget your roots, don't forget your games, don't forget that the high performance and that, executives' quality control is what's really important to us. And that's where kind of like Apple sort of lost its way, that they memory and direction and a lot of extra layers and not real multitasking and not a real file system, and instead a big flat file system, yada, yada, yada. And Windows seemed to have learned what users want is bare bones, close to the metal, and yes, with the right level of abstraction so that things work correctly for us in this modern abstract operating system and application system sort of environment. But I would claim to you guys, and I would like to hear you agree or dispute me, that Windows learned a lot, and Windows is successful today 9 times to 1 over Apple, because Windows followed the kind of lead that we were showing, the close to the bare metal, fast performing, and not abstract and more, Star Trek in the future, but more today and what we want for applications and games today.
What part of Windows?
Take it away, Kyle.
What part of Windows are you talking about?
What number? But my brother constantly reminds me that he doesn't need to run an Amiga because the Amiga actually won. If you look at architecturally, the way systems are designed today is the way that you guys did it. It is not the way the systems back then. Is that right? You want to comment on that?
Didn't Apple buy like B or the Mac, the OS stuff?
It's a BSD.
So they finally got printer multitasking again, because they had it on Lisa, but they gave it up on Mac.
Yeah.
And BSD is a more pure version of the Unix implementation than Linux. And
It's
so
actually real Unix.
It's real Unix, yeah, and it actually started out pretty well.
Well, a lot of real Unix doesn't make it better. We need real-time stuff, what we're doing.
But so what I think Apple did right, though, was, when they came out with OS X, and you had the shell, and it was really, honest to goodness, good shell, not just DOS crap. But they also didn't do the windowing and everything, and those worked really well together. Where they really messed up is in their APIs, because they were so horrendously complex, and they got more complex and much more difficult for developers to easily create applications. And that's the problem I had with Apple over the years. But on the PC side, I hate it.
Windows took advantage of just the faster processing.
Yeah.
And just got fast because they got gigahertz processors and gigabytes of RAM.
Well, where I do agree with RJ is that the games are amazing on the PC, and they did a good job of supporting those and supporting the developed games to make fast, high-speed games that work really well. And the market was there; they could sell billions of dollars worth of games. So that would really help.
If only there was a machine that could do both. Let's see. Only Amiga. Come on, jump in. It's impossible.
Sorry.
The cocaine is kicking in very nicely.
Give me a Coca-Cola.
Well, one thing that's very clear is that if you look at the chip in any modern cell phone, computer, internet compliance, it's a highly integrated solution with a lot of multimedia acceleration. I think in terms of hardware, I'm a hardware engineer, I think we sort of set the standard in the way to go, and that's
how pretty much everybody's following these days.
The one thing that I've noticed is a lot of the operating systems nowadays have goals like the Amiga did, only I think they got confused along the way. They said, well, you know, one simple clean API, but let's have 100 of them, and let's layer them, and let's really make it so that you have to really understand every layer, possible layer. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Especially on Windows.
Or especially on Windows, and Linux is no better.
No, not anymore.
So if you guys had a chance to walk around the history table today, there's too many. How do I compose myself? There are many directions that the Amiga has taken, and they have storied pasts, and some are better or worse, however you feel about it. But we are where we are today. And I would ask you guys to think about what kind of a message might you give to the developers of the Amiga today. If you're talking to guys working with MorphOS, or AmigaOS, or AROS, or the FPGA guys, you know, working on the hardware, is there anything you'd say like, you know, do this, or, you know, think about this aspect? Because they will watch. And I want it to get better, and I would love you guys to give me some suggestions.
RJ said it right. Remember your roots. Remember where it came from. Remember why it was great. And not just the hardware, not just the software, but the team that you build. And stick together and keep it simple and keep it smooth. Remember why we were all here. And do that again. Yes, thank you.
Back in Amiga, we looked at I'm primarily software, but we looked at the things from the point of view of hardware and software when we thought, well, you know what, maybe we could make this work a little bit faster than the hardware, and we made those trade-offs. You know what, let's see if we can move that function to hardware, relieve the issue with the software, like for instance, put a line draw or something like that, and we could. But on the other hand, it was like, you know what, this is going to cost us a lot of extra silicon to do this in software. Can you do this in software? This costs us a lot more to do in hardware. Can you do this in software? Yes, we can make this a little bit easier on the hardware, but we did this to make the whole system work much better and then keep the cost under constraints.
Jay was a wizard. When those questions would come up, he kind of just knew. He said, no, don't do that. That's going to take too much silicon. And except for the times when I was being a jerk and argued with him, he was just right. It was great. And Glenn, too. Glenn would know, and we appreciated that a lot. I didn't argue with you anywhere near as much as they argued with Jay. I don't know why. But yeah, he was incredible.
All right. I got to interrupt for just a second. Sorry, I got to interrupt for just a second because Dave said it right. Out here is Glenn, and Karen, and Debbie, and Mike is out here, and Dale is out here. Would you guys please, just for 1 second, stand up and take a round of applause from all of us, please? Joe is here. Come on, up, all of you guys. Come on.
Say that there was an incredible group of engineers that were at Commodore based in Westchester. There were incredible, great bunch of engineers there as well that we owe a debt of gratitude to keep things going on, to improve the software.
Anyway, you guys deserve it to be up here as much as we, and it's not exactly balanced, and just so that everyone feels the same love that we're feeling here.
Thank you.
Hope you got more questions. Because that would have been the perfect opportunity to walk off the stage.
It makes me think of the day I met RJ. I in the Amiga lobby, and I'm talking with Dave Morris about something. I don't remember what. And he and I are standing, I don't know, maybe 10 inches apart. And a blur of tallness and who knows what zips into the room, breaks between us, pushes us apart, and says, "Out of my way, I'm a busy guy."
Actually, Dave, I'm sorry to interrupt. I forgot something. Can you just talk amongst yourselves for a minute? I'll be right back.
There might be a t-shirt like that.
Oh, yeah. It was just amazing. It was, holy cow, this is great.
And it was a small place. Room total, you know, imagine it's divided into threes, okay, with 3 separate rooms. Hardware, software, and it was the lab, you know, yeah.
So what did RJ do anyway?
My primary job at Amiga was cooking fish in the microwave.
Don't ever do that.
For months and months, that goes I think that's way overdone.
They brought in, the fire department brought in fans to ventilate the building. Short favorite memory.
I've got a very simple memory. It was a wonderful thing that actually illustrated the coherence of the hardware and the software teams, which was when I was developing a multitasking operating system. Short. Shorter than you think. I went to this guy here, Glenn Keller, and I said, "Hey, I need a bit. I just need one bit in hardware to do something within the operating system." And it's like, if you could get me this bit, I could save so many cycles of the CPU. And he said, yeah, we can put that in there. And that made such a difference to me. And I know that Dale would do the same thing over too. So the ability to talk to the hardware team and have them listen to the software guys was just an amazing part of that.
For example, the blitter.
Yeah.
And when all we got, as a software engineer, all I got was, these are the documents, this is what the blitter's supposed to do. So, we had no hardware. So, and I had to write software to drive this non-existent hardware. And so, what would a software guy do? Well, he'd write an emulator to emulate the non-existent hardware. And when I wrote the blitter emulator, over the course of a few days, I realized, you know what, and doing graphics in the past, you know what, if I just tweak this little thing here, made this change here, I can make this blitter draw lines. And so, like 10 days before CES, I tell Jay, you know what, Jay, we could draw lines in hardware. It'd be so much faster than doing them in software. And everyone was against that. Because the hardware was done, and we were getting ready for CES. And Jay was told that he needed to take me to Denny's and convinced me to drop the whole thing. So Jay and I went to Denny's, he bought me lunch, and I said, Jay, all we need to do is, I have this emulator, all we need to do is change this, register to do this, and because I wrote this thing, and we came back and Jay said, let's do hardware line draw. And he gave that to Dave.
Your turn, Dave.
The second half of line draw is a funny story, but it's not my favorite memory. And the short favorite memory is we're at CES in Chicago. It's dark, it's nighttime, there's stuff that's broken, and I say to RJ, take me to a Radio Shack. I have no idea where we are, don't know what's going on. And we got to get to Radio Shack right now and get these parts right now because we have to go fix the hardware. It's going to work in the morning. Take me to Radio Shack.
But it's not a hardware line draw problem because that was 6 months earlier.
Yeah. And RJ we get in the car, and we're driving, and we're driving, and we're driving. There's got to be a Radio Shack close to this. We're driving, we're driving. He's taking me to his house to introduce me to his mom and sister.
RJ's a Williams Electronics, Sinistar, Defender, Joust, all that great stuff. And so he's got lots of family there.
Yeah, his family was great, an incredible family. We're dirty and sweaty and a mess, and it's hungry, and it's nighttime, and we have to get this part, but we're in big trouble. Nope, we take this car ride, we talk about life, how things are supposed to work, the universe, what's good, what's bad. It's like on our first date. And we go in the house, and his mom's in there, your sister's standing behind the kitchen counter. His sister was beautiful. And he told his sister stuff about me that couldn't possibly have been true, because we get in the house and she's just, oh, it's Dave.
Yeah, but the weirdest part of the story is that my sister seriously was like, oh, it's Dave. But my mom is all like, oh, it's Dave.
Radio Shack, we got the part, and everything works. But that's my best memory of that.
Second part is line draw.
Okay, line draw.
Yay! Go, Dave, go.
We have, hour and a half before we have to pack up, and I'm exaggerating, to go to CES. Some crazy people in software land have decided that we should take apart the wire boards, go redesign stuff in the silicon, figure out how we're going to change the interface, break what works.
Wasn't that bad?
No way. What?
Or wire?
Yeah. No way. No way. We are not going to take that kind of risk. We are not going to do it. No how. Bob Parasol, who was physically much larger than me, yes, I'm kind of big now, but I was small then, comes over to me, I think we're actually in the lab, and he grabs my arm in a fake arm twisting way, and he jovially just twists my arm. Oh, come on, let me twist your arm to talk you into doing this. And this little black ball of fur. This dog that I did not particularly like. This dog whose tail accidentally found its way under my foot from time to time. Yeah, this is Mitchie. Mitchie jumps to my defense. She leaps up on this enormous, gigantic Bob, and she's barking, and she's protecting me from this evil monster creature who is attacking me.
You're a software monster.
Software monster. So this dog, who I was never nice to, this dog who I never liked, saves me from the evil that was Parasol to destroy me, and it was just so hysterically funny. It was so great. How could I say no? And so I gave in, I said yes, and we did line draw.
This line to here, just well, maybe it's a little bit more than that.
You want to tell the missing wire story?
Sure. We're at CES, and we're doing stuff. And
Wait. It's the missing wire story.
The missing wire story. We're doing stuff at CES, we're running demos, things are working, stuff works, stuff doesn't work, and it seems to be fine. You guys have been out there, you've seen what the wire boards look like. We bring everything back to the office after CES, and they're running stuff and they're trying some tests, and a particular function doesn't work. We don't understand what broke, because it worked at CES, and we do not know why it's not working now. So Stan Shepard is looking at some stuff on the board, I'm looking at some stuff on the board, trying to figure out what is it, what fell off, what pin came out, what broke. And we're tracing through the circuit, and we see that, in fact, a wire wasn't there. The pin was still virgin and bare.
It had never been connected.
There were no scrape marks on it, there was no broken wire, that wire was never there.
It should have never worked.
It should never have worked. We have...
Virgin.
What?
Virgin.
There you go. We had no clue. We don't know how that ever happened. We don't know what made it work. The wire wasn't there.
I think
the wire
it was just that, oh, it's going to work now.
Yeah. That's right. We were on the method.
Okay, RJ? Any other stories? I got one last story. Real quick, did you ever put a fish in the microwave?
The what?
Did you ever put a fish in a microwave?
Oh my God.
Did you do that?
Here's the rule about fish in microwave. Don't do it. Do it.
Don't blow them up. Don't blow them up in the microwave. Just don't have them explode.
So fish spend their entire lives out in the sea, and they've got these little fish cells that are filled with liquid, and they get
oil,
smelling liquid in their cells. And then when you put it in the microwave, and you microwave it, the cells all break down all at once, and then fish smell all comes out all at once. And I swear to God, we had the police, with the firemen, the fan blowing air out of the place. The people are crawling on their hands and knees, trying to get out without dying. It was so horrible.
I think that's a yes.
RJ, did you ever do that again?
Yes, I would. If you come by my place for dinner this weekend, anyone wants to come by. Okay, one more quick thing. Because there's a bazillion other people that we haven't even drawn attention to. Bill's here, Mike's here, Sam's over here. There's a million other people in this room that we're... Dave's here. Look, we haven't even said hi to David tonight.
Let's do a photo op. Everyone come on. If you want as a developer, come on. Karen, come on. Come here. I got a sign for us we can stand in front of. I was trying to get the check mark. I don't know where it is.
The point I'm trying to make is it's not just us. There's 7 people on this stage. We can't believe the amazing crew of people. Get up here. Come on, you gotta come up here. No, please.
All the Commodore, Amiga 1000, everyone. All the Commodore engineers, East, West, Germany. Anyone here from coming to Germany?
You guys know stars.
Oh my God. Thank you. Steve. Alex Carmona. Is Steve Solly in the building? Where's Steve? Where's Steve? Where's Steve? Where are the guys that are working on it now? Where's Steve and Alex? Are they here? I guess it's not here. There's Alex. There's Steve. These are 2 of the developers that are working on Amiga OS4.
Yeah, I'm having fun back here.
So, we were doing this to honor you guys and what you created.
We have to sit up all night again.
Oh wait, they want us to squish closer together for a better picture. Oh good, yay! Thank you, Joe. There he is. You guys are obvious friendlier. Okay, even if you weren't involved in the meeting, come on up.
Hey guys, if you cannot see me, I cannot see you.
Who are you?
None.
But there are big cameras.
You can give me a kiss, that's love. RJ, put it down. Okay, you
I was talking to Sam, not you.
Right, show me love. Oh,
Work it.
more love! Yeah! Viva Amiga!
Okay, now you can drop the microphone. We're out.
Are we done?
You're done. It's 10:01. We gotta go. Thank you everyone for coming. I hope you had a good time. We'll be here tomorrow morning at 9:30. If you still need your Kickstarter packing, see us by the door and let us know if you need your Kickstarter packing.
As they say, computers never last forever, and technology will go. Well, we proved that one with Amiga. Keep it alive, guys. Now, the last advert and the last bit, what annoyed people in general, and other people got happy by the Amiga CD photo.
I never found out why he chose me to share his secret. Perhaps because we had similar dreams. But this was twice as fast. Twice as powerful as anything I'd ever thought possible. Though what that meant, I could never have foreseen. Incredible graphics and colors, so many colors. Our world would never be the same again.
Yes, indeed, the Amiga C32, a powerful games console which destroyed the company, to be honest. That's what they say. Or did it? Because Amiga's still around in our hearts, in our technology, in our modders, in our future, in our customs. Because we keep it alive today. And that's the whole point of this video. It's not to be sad, but to be happy and celebrate the fact Amiga is still around today in some shape and form by our community. Thank you for that video. And thank you for watching, guys, and thank you to the community for keeping Amiga alive. I hope you enjoyed this educational video, and goodbye. Please subscribe and like and enjoy the music, because I'm about to cry with this song.
They say goodbyes forever.